Hey everybody, I'm Tate,
And I'm Matt.
and welcome back to the 2 Point Lighting Podcast. And Matt, you and I almost recorded this podcast without the audience. So
Yeah, so Tate and I were discussing right before we turned the mic on, and we were actually, so it was kind of ironic because we were talking about how we don't address the topics to each other beforehand.
Yeah.
And then somehow I ended up revealing more of one of my possible topics to
So
Tate.
you were talking about a Chicago Blackhawks player.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, okay. Never mind. Let's keep going. I don't know what I was thinking. Let's go. Okay, so this is a rookie. No, not a almost rookie Canadian player
Yeah.
who missed out on playoffs. So fill me in on what happened.
Yeah, so in light of the NHL playoffs that have been going on, there's been different discussions, hockey related.
Yeah.
And so essentially there is one of the prospects from last year that it was his first season with the Blackhawks. His name is Connor Bedard.
Okay. Where's he from?
He's from West Vancouver.
Oh, really? Okay. I
Yeah.
don't know a lot of players. It's usually Quebec. Okay, but okay. So
Yeah, and so he was.
is he like a Sidney Crosby type player of like, oh, this guy's good?
Yeah, and so essentially that sort of leads into the topic because he was hyped up a lot, like as like a generational talent.
Okay.
He did very well at the World Juniors. Quite often in hockey, if you do well at the World Juniors, that sort of puts you, sort of gives more attention to your game.
Yeah.
And definitely generates more conversation in terms of if you go to the NHL.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there was definitely a lot of hype going in to his professional career there. So he was drafted first overall.
Okay, so
yeah.
that means Chicago was a bad team beforehand then, right?
Yeah, they were.
That explains it.
They were one of
Okay.
the worst teams in the league.
Because I know how the draft works. It's like the worst team gets first pick.
Yeah,
And then you sign these rookies onto like a 1-year contract. I
I
don't know how long you sign them.
Yeah,
actually.
the actual details of the contract I'm not too familiar with.
I don't
all those
follow hockey,
details.
by the way.
I-
all my knowledge comes from a game NHL 2K7.
Oh, yeah?
So I'm going off of that.
Fair enough. Yeah, for me, I used to play hockey, and I still do actually.
Yeah.
In a rec league, and I don't follow it as closely as some other people that I know, but I kind of tune in here and there.
Yeah.
And last year I had watched a lot of the highlights because I was curious how well Connor Bedard was doing.
Yeah.
And,
So are
yeah.
you interested in this player then too?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, like he had a really good rookie season. He was injured for part of it with a broken jaw, but I'm pretty sure he was leading the team in scoring still, and
Oh,
he was
wow.
making highlight reel plays, and his comfortability with the puck, making smart decisions with it. Like he was definitely showing that he lived up to the hype, and that was generally the conversation around it. Of course, there's always going to be people that are disagreeing, saying that he's not as what he was hyped up to be, but generally speaking,
He's a good growth talent.
yeah. The one of the main concerns going into his rookie season was that I forget his exact size, but he's relatively small for a hockey player.
Okay.
And
But doesn't that
so-
mean he's fast?
Yeah, so he's actually pretty fast, and so now the game is actually not as rough and physical as what it was.
Yes.
Compared to the league that he played in, the WHL, like the NHL is certainly like rougher than that.
Yeah.
But
And the play is probably a lot tighter then.
yeah,
Like a lot less. Your mistakes are going to be punished. I'm assuming a lot more in the NHL than the WHL.
yeah, and actually that's essentially how he got injured because he skated a lot with his head down, or he skates a lot with his head down, and essentially like the hit that was made upon him was actually a clean hit. Like it wasn't a dirty hit, but it's just because he's so short that the other player's shoulder just came up to his head. So yeah, so he was out for a while with that. but essentially why I had wanted to bring up this topic now was I've been seeing some discussion about Connor Bedard's career as so far he's been in the NHL for 2 seasons, and he hasn't had a very good season this time round. I haven't followed it too closely, but from what I've seen in summary by seeing the highlights,
Yeah.
yeah, he just hasn't been. He had a drought where he wasn't scoring a lot of goals. He was getting frustrated with certain plays. Essentially, he just wasn't having as great a year. It's also too because like
He's on a bad team.
he's on a really bad team that is offering not a lot of support. So
Yeah.
people have broken down the stats and say this plus minus record is really not that good, and as well. So basically, that's where like if you're on the ice, if like the team scores against you a lot,
Okay.
and as well, his defensive game is definitely lacking.
So what position does he play?
Center.
Okay, so centers seem to get most hype, right?
Yeah, center is a very tough position to play because you're essentially almost everywhere. You have to forecheck, back check. So you're on the offensive side. The idea being you're still supposed to help on the defensive side too. I guess I guess really everyone's supposed to help back check in theory.
Yeah.
But the way center is played, and I've always I've always played defense.
Yeah.
So I know in theory where the forwards are supposed to be, but center is a very versatile position. So what part of the conversation is now is that maybe Connor Bedard should play one of the wings, like left wing or right wing,
Okay.
as forward. Essentially, it's just more of a focused position, just playing either to one side of the ice or the other.
And so why would you do that? Is it to get him used to the macro of hockey?
I think it's also to, from what I understand, more of a strategic, like it's a bit more focused, where he's not all over the place. Because if you're center, you should also help back check, and he hasn't really been doing that quite so much.
Yeah.
So probably being on either left wing or right wing would be strategically the best move. For myself, I don't tend to study a lot of the hockey dynamics.
No.
So
I know nothing.
there's probably more reasoning to that. But for myself, playing more defense, I'm more minded towards that and just thinking about how I can skate up and pass the puck to forwards. And so so essentially, that's sort of the conversation that's been around that. And so some people are saying, you know what? He does show a lot of potential. Like he probably will
Be a very good player at least.
yeah, and like definitely grow into the role more.
He just needs a better team.
Yeah, and also he needs to learn a couple extra tactics as well. Like when he skates, make sure he has his head up, make sure that he's.
And you would think
yeah.
that should have been the coach's thing. You would think the coach would be like, keep your head up.
Yeah.
Like, you'd think that's a coaching failure. But,
it's probably just a bit more of a habit thing because especially in, like, the junior leagues, like the WHL that he came from,
yeah.
since it's a lot less physical, I think more players are just, like the game has changed a lot. So
Yeah.
I think maybe players are just used to that and kind of get in the bad habit of that.
Yeah, but still, when you're brought up to the NHL and all of a sudden you get an NHL level coach, you would think a coach would say, hey, keep your head up, dude. You're going to get hurt.
Yeah, and I
Like,
imagine...
I think that has to be a failure on the coach, right?
Yeah, I would imagine that the coach, or one of the coaches probably has told that to him, and especially in light of him getting hit.
Yeah.
Because they do, like, review the film a lot.
Oh,
And,
guaranteed now they've... Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, that hit, like, yeah, was a clean hit on how he got injured. So I'm sure going forward... I haven't seen too much of his game, just a couple highlights here and there.
Yeah.
But hopefully he's playing the game a little bit smarter that way to avoid getting injured. And just some other aspects about the game that people are thinking that he has to improve upon.
Yeah.
But it's just really interesting because, yeah, as we had mentioned before, going into this, he was hyped up to be the next Sidney Crosby, the next... so Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews are two other players
I don't know
that
them.
have come in.
The two players I know are like Ovechkin and Crosby.
Yeah, so Ovechkin and Crosby, they were drafted in like the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
And so they're sort of like the same generation.
Yeah.
And then Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid are like I guess you could say the generation sort of after that. And so Connor Bedard has been sort of mentioned in the same breath with these guys. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
And so he has had all this hype on him. People were skeptical because of his size, because he's really small, how he would do in the NHL. And
yeah. I've got opinions on that. Okay.
Okay.
Here's the thing. In the NBA, there was a coach who went to a bad team and said, "Hey, give me about 5 years, and I'll make you a good team." And so what he did is he said, "I am not going to get the tallest players. I'm going to get the shortest." And the reason I'm going to do that is because the shortest players are going to be faster and get more shots on the hoop.
Interesting. Okay.
And it didn't work out, and he got fired eventually. They didn't give him his full 5 years, but eventually another coach came in, and they started winning like a lot.
Oh, okay.
And now that is just the way you play basketball. Is
More
it
speed.
sped up the game? And so I'm wondering. I know hockey's already a fast physical game, but I'm wondering if that's going to be a thing of shorter players, so you can get more shots on that.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that definitely is like a good strategy to focus more so on speed too. I think the other thing is that some players are also big and fast.
Yeah.
Like for example, like Sidney Crosby is very skilled and he has like a certain physicality about his game. Like I'm not sure how tall he is, but definitely taller than Connor Bedard. And Ovechkin is skilled, and he was also known as being like a pretty rough and aggressive player.
Yeah.
So these are things that Connor Bedard definitely has against him. But it's just really interesting the conversation around, and you can almost take this in like the general sense. I mean, not even just in sports, but the idea of someone being hyped so high where it gets to a point where
He could never live up to it.
they could never live up to it, and he's almost doomed to fail. He could be a really good player, but he wasn't legendary status out the gate. And then now people are like, like the kid's not good. He can't.
He's garbage. He was never good or anything.
Which is like, it. And the one thing too with hockey, how it's different than the other sports. For example, like in basketball and football, they pick from the college leagues. So typically they're going to be at the very least like, I don't know, like 21, 22 sort of thing.
Whereas hockey, they're 18.
Yeah, and sometimes they're drafted even earlier than that.
17,
I was like
yeah.
16, 17. So they're just not as like fully developed, right? And so it just takes a few more years just to gain that extra muscle, fully mature.
Yes.
And so I definitely think that in a couple years for sure, like Bedard could definitely be like an even more effective player and even better at his game.
Yeah.
But he just needs time. And it's like the amount of pressure that this kid had, like last year was like unreal. And he did great.
On a bad team. Okay.
Yeah.
Do we want to play a thought experiment then?
Okay.
What team would you like to see him on? What team do you think, like, obviously, you want him on, you could say put him on the best team, which I have no clue who that is. Is it the Vegas Golden whatever?
Yeah, good question. I haven't really kept up with hockey nowadays to
I don't know who
exactly
the best people are.
who's the best team right
Tampa
now.
Bay is always pretty good, right?
They have been, yeah, generally. I think Vegas, they won the cup recently, so I think they're doing pretty good. I can't remember who like which team is currently doing.
I don't
best.
know. I know. Okay. I know the player Justin Shen.
Yeah, that name sounds familiar. I forget what team.
And he was on Tampa Bay for a few years, and he won a few Stanley Cups there.
Yeah.
And the reason I know that player is my brother really liked him when he was on the Leafs because he was from Saskatoon.
Oh, okay, nice.
And Yeah, so I know Justin Shen, or I think that's his name. No, Luke Shen. Luke Shen.
Luke Shen?
Luke Shen is his name.
Okay.
I think he has a brother called Justin. But yeah, so I know Tampa was good at one point, but that was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, they did win the cup. They had Steven Stamkos was sort of like their main.
They won a few cups, I think.
Yeah, they won
Tampa Bay.
I think they won in 2004, right before the '05 lockout.
I'm thinking more about 2018 or 2015.
Yeah, they did win within the last, fairly recently. I forget what year.
The Vegas Knights?
Yeah.
Golden Knights?
Golden Knights, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they won.
I didn't know they won. I know they were good. But because that's their only sports team in Vegas, so they're very popular there.
Yeah.
And, being a popular sports team actually helps with things like finances.
Yeah.
And there's a direct correlation between spending and winning. So,
Yep.
so if you're rich, you tend to win a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So the team that I want to see them on, and which I guess they're not doing the greatest, but my personal favorite team is the Vancouver Canucks.
That's a classic team.
Which is a team where, Canadian team.
Yes.
And also, it's a team where Bedard would want to go at.
Because it's his home.
Because he's from Vancouver. So it just makes it just makes perfect sense. So that would be the team I would want to see him on. But that's as a diehard Canucks fan,
Okay. Did Vancouver make playoffs? I don't think they did this year, did they?
This year, no, and they haven't last while. Back when I was watching hockey a lot, like one of the playoffs that I remember like being really into was, I think it was the 2010, 2011, I forget. The Canucks was facing against the Boston Bruins, and that's the one where the Canucks came close, but they lost. Close.
Yeah, I heard.
And and they rieted in Vancouver.
Oh wow!
People went crazy, smashing stuff, burning stuff. On fire.
No!
It was.
Because Canada hasn't won in a long time, if I remember correctly.
I forget how long it's been, but it's been a long time. Yeah.
Okay. I know I don't know anything about sports, but my personal favorite NHL team is the Winnipeg Jets.
Okay, that's a good one.
I like them, and it seems like they're pretty good actually. I keep seeing them in playoffs whenever I get a text from someone saying, "Oh, NHL playoffs," and I look it up, and Winnipeg Jets is almost always there.
Okay.
So I think they're a pretty good team, not a great team, but good enough to consistently get to playoffs. So maybe that could be like an over the edge type player for them. Of now we're gonna be a great team.
So if he's traded to that team, then there's a good chance that.
I just don't know if they're rich, but they tend to do okay. I'm assuming they're well off. Although Canucks should be rich as hell.
I think so. Generally speaking, like
Canadian teams should be really well off. Generally.
Because hockey is Canada's game. Like it's more popular here generally. The most profitable organization, I think.
It's got to be the Leafs, right?
Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's like Hockey Central.
That was my brother's team. He loved the Leafs.
Yeah, they're. I think. The Leafs are notorious for, not winning the cup and but they're still like got the diehard fans, and then also I'm pretty sure at one point I remember watching SportsCenter back in the day, and they were talking about having a second team, kind of how like New York does for some stuff like football and baseball. They have like the two different teams. So I'm pretty sure like Toronto's doing very well in terms of the franchise financially.
Here's the problem. Here's why Canada doesn't get more hockey teams is because so many Canadians already watch hockey that if you bring in more teams, say if you had a Saskatoon Warriors or something, join the Saskatoon Lasers, so everyone can call them the Saskatoon Losers. Let's do that. Say you did that, then you're just splitting the fan base, and you're not really bringing in more fans, and so that's why the Americans just generally get more teams, because Vegas, they didn't care about hockey, but it's their only sports team, so they care.
Yeah.
Whereas here, everyone in Saskatoon already cares. Now you're just shifting their care to just another team. So that's generally why Canada doesn't get a lot of new teams in the States does.
Yeah. And there's also too, like, I mean, I don't know the full details, but the NHL commissioner also currently pushes for a lot of the expansion to teams down south.
Texas and stuff. Like,
yeah,
more like, Dallas, Austin.
Yeah, so he's kind of been more responsible for expanding the teams down there in places where you wouldn't expect to find much of a hockey culture, but for trying to grow it.
Yeah.
Now, some people look at that as, not favoring Canada, but you can also look at it like, well, you're trying to expand the game.
You're trying to bring in people who aren't watching.
Yeah, exactly. Because actually, one of the top hockey players right now, Austin Matthews, who plays for the Maple Leafs.
Oh, I had no clue.
Yeah, he's
Maple Leafs made playoffs this year, I think, right?
I actually don't know. I've been tuning in a little bit to playoffs. I've been watching like Washington and Canadians, but I haven't really been.
I think the Leafs made it to playoffs, but I don't think. No, the Senators did. The Leafs didn't make it. The Ottawa Senators did.
Okay.
And I think they're immediately facing off against the Canadians, and I don't know how good they. I know these teams. I don't know how good they are.
Yeah, like for me,
I don't know the game.
It's been a while since I've really focused up on the stats and everything.
Yeah,
but yeah, with Austin Matthews, he's from Phoenix, and so the team's not there anymore. But the Phoenix Coyotes,
yeah, they became the Jets.
Yeah,
that's my favorite team.
Yeah. So how he got big into hockey, I'm pretty sure is I saw him in an interview explain how a fan member, I want to say maybe his uncle, I'm not 100% sure, but. Yeah, he had taken him to a Phoenix Coyotes game. He loved the sport and wanted to play it. But otherwise, in a place like Phoenix, like that's not hockey culture.
Yeah,
really. So, because there's NHL teams in these places, it's now giving more people inspiration to join hockey. So you can look at it like it's a good thing too.
Like, I think to grow hockey, you just need to get rid of region locking. Problem is, hockey's already a fun sport to watch compared to something like the NFL,
where it stops and starts.
The NFL, they play like 40 minutes for every 3 hours, or no, I think it's about 20 minutes
because the play doesn't last very long, and then it's
ad break, wait for the coaches,
watch rerun or watch the replay. Yeah.
So I think football's a very boring sport. Soccer's kind of cool.
They don't score a lot in soccer.
They don't score a lot, but at least the clock never stops running.
Yeah.
I think that's the rule of soccer is the clock never will stop running. Even if someone's injured on the field.
I'm not sure.
They come on and they spray their magic. Like, Mark, that's why in soccer they try and fumble and pretend to be injured. That's running down the clock. If you're ahead and say a player is running towards your net, you might pretend to be injured to run down the clock.
Okay.
That's part of the strategy there. And then they come and spray some things on you and you're like, oh, I'm always fine. I'm good to keep playing or whatever.
Okay.
But soccer never stops running. Lacrosse, have you seen lacrosse gameplay?
Lacrosse can get physical. It's a vibe.
Lacrosse looks dangerous. I wouldn't want to play lacrosse. Yeah. I see them in shorts and they have the sticks and they are whacking those things. So
yeah, the lacrosse looks pretty intense. And there's also, I guess, basketball's all right.
Basketball's fun. I don't know. I haven't watched it.
Yeah, I haven't. But I don't watch a lot of it.
Hockey's a very fun sport. It's just you have to pay so much to watch any of it because it's all region locked, right? Yeah. And so it's hard to watch the sport. And I think if you want more people, you just have to open up the barriers and just say, hey, anyone can watch the whole sport without spending $200 a month or something.
Yeah, it's also an expensive sport to play too.
Yes,
because
barrier for entry is hard for.
And also like ice time, like to book practices, and then also too, like the fees for it because of like the ice time, and then also too traveling. Yes. So oftentimes some cities may not have a lot of rinks, so you have to travel outside to the nearby small towns.
In Canada, you're almost always going to have a rink. At least in Saskatchewan, you will.
Yeah.
In the prairies, you're always going to. Even in towns of like 500, you're going to find a rink.
Yeah. So it's definitely an expensive
But it's
sport,
an expensive sport, and it's also one of the most dangerous sports.
Yeah, got sticks, pucks, blades, and
hitting's encouraged. Not for younger people, but in the NHL it is.
And it's the only, I'm pretty sure, it's the only like major team sport.
Yeah.
That fighting is just a simple like 5-minute misconduct.
Yeah.
Because any other like, football, basketball,
baseball. Could you imagine if someone just started hitting each other with the bat? That's
like
hockey.
If you start fighting, I'm pretty sure you're like kicked out of the game, maybe suspension.
You're probably gonna get suspended for a few games.
Yeah, and like the refs try to break it up.
Season.
Now, generally in hockey culture, like if there's a scrum right in front of the net,
yeah,
like the refs do try to like you see them kind of like holding them back. But if two people that both decide to like drop the gloves and go, the refs stand back as if they're like refs in boxing, and they just let them have it. And then when one of them falls to the ground, which is kind of crazy to think about, that like out of all the sports that you allow fighting, hockey, when
it's the one with people with blades on their feet,
and where you take off your helmet
sticks.
and you fall on the ice, which has been addressed. Like there's been debate about taking fighting out of the sports because it doesn't really add anything to it per se. There's this whole like enforcer thing where some people are encouraged to
hit hard
to protect the key players.
But that enforcers are, unfortunately, they aren't treated well. There was that enforcer for the Leafs who died in like 2011.
Yeah,
and the reason I know is because I knew his brother.
Yeah, I remember there was a. I'm blanking on the name.
I can't remember his name.
But I do know who you're talking about.
I lived in the community. His brother was an RCMP officer, and I actively knew him.
Okay.
I just remember he passed away, and he was like, his life wasn't great.
No,
because he was in pain a lot.
And substance abuse sometimes can come of it. I don't know specifically.
That's exactly what happened. He didn't know to not mix his medication with alcohol, and he passed away through that.
Okay.
But
yeah, so it's hockey's definitely like a rough sport, and definitely some.
So you want to see? I can't remember his name. Go to Canucks. We got on a rant of just the sport in general.
But yeah, like definitely want to see Bedard go to the Canucks, and I guess kind of to close off this topic to kind of bring it back around full circle.
Give the guy time.
Just like the negative views on, or the negative effect on overhyping someone and putting all this pressure on him where he feels like he can't fully live up to it.
And no one can.
Yeah.
Even Crosby. I remember when Crosby came in, he was really good. People were like, "Oh, he's overhyped. He's not that good." But it just sucks because you're putting all these pressure on these very young men. All this pressure. Yeah. And they can't live up to it, but eventually, if they're good, they'll just kind of stick in the league and make millions of dollars. So who cares? So I'm not crying too many tears for Bedard, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Although he should come to Canada and get us a Stanley Cup, first time in a long time.
So I just wanted to bring up that topic because I know a lot of people that are watching the playoffs, and so now that Bedard's 2 seasons in, and because Chicago did make the playoffs, they're kind of reflecting on these 2 years, and this year in particular wasn't the greatest for him, so hence why the debate has slightly turned more negative. And so just thought I would kind of bring that up and just kind of give a bit of a recap on thoughts about hockey in general, and also as it pertains to Bedard. So
yeah,
it's a fun one. So Tate, do you have your topic?
Man, we're going into different territory. This is a personal one.
Okay.
You're going from hockey. What do you think happens when you die?
So
we hockey to death.
So
I'm sorry, it's just funny. The transition is just terrible. I love it. Let's go.
It's very, very abrupt, and
it's funny. I'm sorry.
So okay, wait. So
it's just we're talking about Bedard and hockey,
And just to clarify for the listeners, not that we think that death is funny, but more so just the very drastic transition between
Yeah, the
topics.
drastic transition is just funny to me. I'm sorry. It's just, that's the topic I came up with, and I didn't know we were going to start with hockey. I guess I said let's do it because we were talking about that anyway, and it was a runaway conversation. But
Yeah. So Tate, just to clarify, so you're just asking about the...
What do you think happens when you die? Because I've heard a lot of theories, and I'm very curious about yours.
My theory? Well, so, okay. I'm...
Such a transition.
That is definitely a heavy and bold topic. What I will say is it's changed throughout the years.
Yeah.
I guess, when I was younger, I just defaulted to thinking about, heaven and all that.
Yeah.
Now I'm somewhat agnostic.
I'm an
atheist.
Yeah.
So I guess the boring cop-out answer would be to say, I don't know. But you asked what I think.
Okay, what do you think is the most likely scenario? Do you think the most likely scenario is nothing? Existence ends for you?
I think maybe nothing.
Okay. Because I
don't want that. Well, I don't know. Like, the idea of living forever is kind of terrifying, so maybe nothing is better. I don't know.
But the idea of dying and being nothing is also terrifying.
It is terrifying, too.
We live in a world, and I was thinking about this. We live in a world of everything's kind of infinite. Nothing really ends. Everything's recycled.
Yeah.
Except personality. Personality isn't recycled. And that's kind of a sad fact, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of feeling like a raw deal. That, everything in this world's recycled. All the matter, all the atoms are all going to become different things. Everything's being recycled, except me. Parts of my body are going to be recycled, but I'm not going to be recycled.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like a raw deal that I was thinking about.
Huh. Yeah, it's interesting. I guess. Yeah, like there's so there's what I like to what I want to happen after I die versus what I think is going to happen.
Okay, what do you want? This is a weird personal topic. What do you want to happen?
I don't even know what I want, honestly, because it's like the problem is like, when you think about like the idea of heaven, how peaceful it is and this and that, but you're like, so what am I doing? Is it just like I'm just, because even in like eternal bliss, I mean, it would get boring because what makes life interesting is conflicts and overcoming conflicts, but there's no conflicts in heaven.
And you can't climb the heavenly ladder.
Like, let's really think about this. Like, are there strategic goals that we implement and we work on things and we work towards a goal? And if you're someone that likes to do that, most people need some kind of
that because
conflict or challenge or
here's
something.
The thing, even if they stop working, people just die kind of right away.
So it's kind of like
without things to do. You need things. You need things to do.
You know what? Heaven, the way it's presented, is like you just retired, but you don't have a plan. You're just existing. And
that's a nightmare.
Yeah, that's kind of scary.
That's way scarier.
So, I guess there's the whole idea of yes, because of like the actual end is terrifying. So, it's the comforting thought knowing that your consciousness will live on.
Yeah.
But then if you actually play it out, like, okay, how's this heaven situation going to work? It's like I'll just endlessly live forever, but there's no conflict. So hence that becomes the conflict. Conflict is there no conflict?
The conflict is you'd probably want to die.
You just go crazy. You go stir crazy because you're like, okay, I'm just chilling here. And
like, could you say you wanted to write a book in heaven, but billions of other people are also writing books?
But then also it becomes to a point of who you're writing the book to, the other people in paradise. And then also if you want to create art, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, right, with art and how you express yourself, you're addressing an issue. Yeah. But there's no issue in paradise. So therefore, what do you write?
And so if you're in heaven and there's no different cultures, there's no meeting a person or experiencing a different way of living. It kind of sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you want to happen? Let's loop back to that. What do you want to happen when you pass away? Do you want to be recycled like a reincarnation and give her a go again? Or do you want it to be a situation where you wake up and you're 5 years old and you have all your current memories and you're like, okay.
That'd be scary.
That'd be very terrifying.
That'd be really weird. I don't know if I want that.
Would you do anything different in that scenario? Obviously, that really sucks. All your peers, you're way smarter than them. You're a genius child all of a sudden.
But so that affects your so like you would have that sense of maturity, but you're 5.
Yeah, your current brain would be passed into a 5-year-old.
But so when you would talk, like that'd be weird because
you would have much better grammar and everything than everyone else.
But how would you conduct yourself then? Because would you go through grade school that way, or would you just skip that? That's
what would you do in that scenario? We could go down that path if you want.
I feel like that would be just frustrating because
you're smarter than all your peers, but all the adults are going to treat you like a kid.
Because you feel like you're wasting your time.
Yeah, and you are wasting your time.
So I don't know if I'd want that. That'd be a really weird experience.
What if you just skipped grade school? You just went into college and did something else.
Yeah, because, problem is you have to convince people of that, and that's just a crazy notion.
Okay, but what if you went to college and say you're like, I'm going to take this test, this English 100 test, and you just ace it. I'm going to write an essay for English 100, I ain't going to ace it. And then they're going to be like, 5-year-olds shouldn't be able to do that. Here you go. Welcome to college. Because you could challenge all your courses in school and just get past everything and not ever go.
I feel like people would be skeptical though, like whether is this kid actually cheating? Because I mean, if a 5-year-old is at the level of college,
yeah,
certainly if this was proved to be true, there'd be news stories like crazy covering it.
Yeah,
but in terms of so
you'd be a child genius, but yeah.
From the outside looking in, yeah, there would definitely be some much talked about. Like it would be in the media for sure, and definitely some skepticism. It would just be a crazy story, right?
Well, it depends on if your parents put it in the media, right?
Yeah.
Or I guess the university might as well. The university might say,
or people might just find out because of
why is this 5-year-old in college?
Yeah. Word might spread, but in terms of the experience, though, no, I don't think I'd want that.
Okay, so what do you want then? I'm sorry, we went off on a tangent. What do you want then?
You know what? Honestly, I genuinely don't know because, I feel like so on the topic of like reincarnation, right? Like it's technically me, but I reincarnate, and
you're not gonna have anything. Yeah.
I mean, I guess I can't really have an opinion as far as because I'm not remembering what the prior one was, so I can't even compare and contrast, and I wouldn't even be like with this one. I have no awareness that that's even happening.
Yeah.
With the situation where I go to heaven or I reincarnate with the memories, at least I'm aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
If there's really nothing after we pass or our soul does reincarnate and we don't remember, it's kind of like, I'm not going to be reflecting on how this isn't a very good situation because I won't even be aware of what the situation is.
Yeah, you're just... I think it's Sikhism whose... The idea is you reincarnate until you're a good enough person to go to heaven. I think that's the idea of Sikhism.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure.
So would it be that idea or would it just be your cycle? Because reincarnation doesn't exactly mean you're coming back as a human either. You could be a mosquito and you could just annoy people and get slapped and you're done. Then you reincarnated again as a bigger mosquito. I don't know.
Yeah, I think honestly, with that whole thing, I just rather just have just absolutely just
Just
nothing.
nothing.
Yeah, and just this is life. I'll live it to the best of my ability,
Yeah.
and that's that.
Because I
And-
know Cole, our old coworker Cole, he believed because when you pass away, your brain releases a bunch of chemicals a bunch of essentially hallucinatory chemicals, and so his idea was that you live an entirely nether life
Okay.
because you're hallucinating, and hallucinations don't exactly have to follow time.
Right.
That was Cole's idea.
Interesting.
It's kind of like reincarnation, but it's trying to apply science to it, I think.
Almost like trying to explain why you didn't actually live a new life, but just from the mind's perspective.
Yeah, from the mind's perspective, you did. But in that case, it also sounds very lonely because that new life is not real.
So is it like almost like relative to like a 80 some odd years or however long, like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. And then if you die in there, does a chemical in that dream release and you live another 80 years? Do you just keep... Is this a recursive thing?
This is too meta.
It's too meta. It's way too meta, but...
So
I
what
think
do
that was
you-
his idea.
Okay. So what do you think? Like, what do you think? What do you want to happen?
Okay, so here's the way I look at it. If there's a god, I don't think hell could exist.
Because you just think it's just not fair.
Well, okay. If we killed robots, say if we... do you think we would kill robots, or would we put them in the happy robot land? I don't think we'd ever do robot hell. It'd
Like
be either
create-
nothing or happiness.
You mean like if like a robot
If we had an AI,
and then we would just upload their
data,
their bodies finished and upload their data.
yeah, to a robot heaven,
Or
or
would we just
delete it.
I feel
But
like
here's the thing:
we would just delete
I
it.
don't think hell would ever come into that equation, right?
Like if we were done with like if they had made robots, let's say, and if the robots were like lived this life, they were outdated and they needed to be discarded. If we would just scrap them
Yeah.
versus upload their consciousness to
Because that becomes an ethical issue. Because we're already moving away from things like death penalties. But then, does that apply to robots, a man-made creation?
I guess
Like
it's-
again, I'm talking conscious AI. I'm not talking regular robots.
well, I guess if it's and I don't think we had conscious AI just yet, but
No, we haven't had it yet.
no. But if we
But if we did,
did, that opens up another debate of are they conscious? And then the counter debate would be,
What do we
are,
do?
Are we conscious really? Do we? How do we know that? So,
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, they seemingly operate on a similar level to us. So how artificial is it? Like, you get into that whole debate. Then you start thinking like, okay, well, they emote like us. Therefore, do they actually feel like us? And
they
that-
emote like us. They interact with each other like us,
Then
or on a
that's-
big higher plane because they can process so much more data than
yeah.
we can.
Then that leads to the ethical, ethical point that yes, that we should treat
Them
their
as
their
humans.
care and their afterlife experience in
In a
proper way,
exactly, and so
comforting way.
in a comforting way, and so that comes to my thing of can't believe in hell because I don't think humans could create. I don't think we could bring ourselves to create AI hell.
There's some sadistic people out there. Though.
There are some sadistic people, but society as a whole, I don't think would ever say we're going to sentence this AI to hell. I think they'd just say we're going to delete it.
I mean, it's just simpler. Probably should delete
It's
it.
just simpler to. It's just a simpler process.
So you're saying that God would operate on the same level?
I'm
assuming
saying-
that He would just simply discard us and not bother with an afterlife.
I'm saying, if God is supposed to be a merciful figure, he should not be we should not be outperforming him. Because we would never
Yeah.
sentence someone to hell. Does that mean humans would have more of an ethical problem with that than God?
Yeah, that's
Because as humans have gotten more civilized, quote unquote, or whatever, I don't know, we've generally said we want to treat people better. Even criminals in places like Norway and Denmark, they've stopped with cruel prisons, and their prisons are really nice, dude.
Okay.
The prisons are really nice with a focus on rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, hey, we'll just invest double into this prison, and then we're going to have like the sentence, and then we're going to put you into society once you're done again.
Yeah.
And their re-crime rate's really low, and so it's funny that as society progresses, we're saying, hey, we don't want the death penalty, we don't want war. And so as we evolve, violence becomes less and less and less and less and less of an option. Violence and cruelty.
Okay.
And so I'm saying, theoretically, if we were created by a god and we are progressing towards a god, we're becoming smarter, we're becoming more like a god, that means he would have to be on another kindness level than us, right?
Yeah, in theory.
In theory. And so, and we're currently at the point where we wouldn't make a hell as a society, as a civilization. We would not have government AI hell. No, I don't think so. It'd be easier to delete, right?
Yeah, I don't know. The world's a messed up place.
It is a messed up place,
know.
but I still don't think we'd subject them to hell.
I think
Of constant punishment, torture.
if someone had a bad experience with an AI, I mean,
Someone could.
Like
that is the thing. Someone could easily do that, but
mean,
I'm not saying a government wouldn't.
it depends who's in power and which type of like
Okay, a Western government wouldn't. I don't know about Eastern cultures that much.
Yeah,
But even them, I don't think would. I think it would just be cheaper to delete it, right? Like, the economical solution would be to delete it.
and also just be like the simpler way. It'd be more efficient that way.
Yeah, exactly. So
So
theoretically, the way I look at it, either there's nothing or there's something really good at the end.
okay.
That's my personal theory based off us.
So basically, there's nothing or something really good.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I guess I essentially said nothing, and
Yeah.
I tend to lean to nothing. And you know what? If there is a paradise situation, that's cool. I'm just like, how is that going to work?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. It has to be better than what
Yeah.
religion has to say it is, because
So for me, I'm like, I'm not against the idea of paradise, but there has to be something there.
it has to be something different.
Some kind of conflict to make it interesting, you know?
Which is weird to say.
Yeah.
I really want conflict in heaven.
I just want conflict. You know?
I need guys to throw down and fight in heaven.
It'd just be too boring, you know?
It would be. Do we have anything more on that topic or no?
I don't know. That's all I pretty much have on that.
That's all I got. Hockey to afterlife.
Hockey in the afterlife there. So
Yeah, okay, yeah, there we go. That's the conflict, is everyone's playing hockey in the afterlife.
hockey in the afterlife. That's what paradise is.
Yeah, there's no slashing though.
No slashing.
That's the one rule. It's like
there's
no
no
one
fighting,
just slashes. You can throw down all you want, but slashing's off the table.
So that's where I draw the line.
Okay, have a good one, guys. Thank you so much for watching.
See you later. Take care.